Today we will extend the developer portal which comes out of the box with a catalog with some more functionality using templates. So what do we want to achieve? First thing is we see here in a standard developer portal that we have a catalog which is based on RESTful APIs. So you can do all the typical things in a RESTful API. You can go ahead, filter them, and then try them out. You have all the different kinds of trying things out and execute the calls. This is a very nice tool in the RESTful world of APIs, but we want now to go to the next level of APIs, and this is GraphQL. So we want now not only to have this kind of documentation, but also an interactive way of speaking with a GraphQL endpoint within our developer portal. So what will we need? What's the setup we have here today up and running? Well, I have here up and running a Kong Enterprise version 2.4, but the version number does not really matter. The only thing which has been configured next to it, I've enabled the developer portal here on that workspace, is I already have put in one single service. You can see it's one single service, and this one single service points to a Star Wars API endpoint with a GraphQL interface. That's an example I've put in here, which we'll use now from now on to work with the documentation. So when it comes to documentation of GraphQL, there is a best practice that you can do it in an interactive way. And there are some tools available which you can use. We will today look at a tool called GraphiQL, open source system, which we can use for interactive documentation of a GraphQL endpoint. And you can see, if you scroll down here a little bit, it looks like this. It's a tool where you can see here the request, response, and also an automated generation of documentation based on the endpoint. And now we want to get this into our dev portal for a much nicer experience for our developers to play with a backend system. So how do we do that? Let's go step by step, and let's have a look on how we can extend this existing developer portal. This dev portal here is just a default one coming out of the box. So if we go here in our management of the system, we will see here in our workspace that we have here the whole dev portal section. We will focus today on the editor because we want to change the layout and we want to add some functionality. So let's have a look in here, and let's have a look what we will find here as different sections. We have on the upper part here, we do have here the general configuration file, which holds, for example, the title of the dev portal. It holds the whole menu structure at the dev portal. Then we have here a section of the content, so all the pages are in here. For example, if you just click here, you see that's also the home page of the dev portal, and there are all the other pages are visible in here. We do have here the RESTful API, Open API based specifications, which we have seen already in the catalog. Then we have here the themes, and then the themes is what we want to do something actually. So let's have a look on how we can create something here from scratch, that we get a new page into the system, which we then can use as a basement for our documentation of a GraphQL endpoint. So the first thing that we say, we need to have our own template. Now let's have a look here in the theme sections. We do have here layouts. There are all the default layouts here, which come out of the box with a Kong Enterprise. Yeah, and you can see, for example, here, that's the template for the homepage in here, and we will now create our own template here with doing something very lightweight in the beginning. So let's add a new template here by designing new file. It should be in the theme. We wanted to also have it in the base, in the layouts folder, and we will call it GraphQL.html. So we're getting here now a very lightweight template in the beginning. Let's do something a little bit more in here. Let's say we want to have here also some header and footer attached to it. So how do we do that? Well, let's have a look at the homepage. We can just borrow here those things. We can go to the homepage. That's how it looks like. We need to go here, and then we get in here headers and footers. Let's just borrow the layout we already have. Go to GraphQL, put it in there and get rid of this part here where we have div class, main class, and the all things. So we only want to be here in the center page of the page in here. So let's remove all that clutter and just say here for the beginning h hello world. Here we go. Now that we have a template, this template does not do anything so far. The next thing is now that we need to figure out how do we get something here in the system that will also use the template. So let's remember the name. The template is called GraphQL.html. So we need now to have a content which references this template. So we go once again, new file. This time we want to have a content. Content. And the content section, we'll just call it Swapi. That's the Star Wars API we have already seen here is an example. So let's create that file. And if you look at that one, you have here title text. So let's call this here Star Wars. And the layout, that's the name of the layout we have just a reference down here. So we just say the layout is called GraphQL.html, the one we just created. So let's save those changes. And here we already are. We have now a template being rendered here, and we have here now the hello world, which we have put in there to make it happen that we have this hello world in here. So let's do something more fancy. Let's say we have here a title. Wouldn't it be nice if that title would be somehow being visible instead of this hello world stuff? So well, let's go ahead. Let's go out to our template. And in such a template, you can embed any data which is in that YAML file we've just seen. So we can also once again just borrow something. Let's have a look here, like about how works this. Oh, it's just about that I have to say page dot. And then I have here this curly brackets. Let's just do that. Instead of hello world, we want now to have here curly brackets, and then it's page dot, and then it's dot title. That's the parameter we have defined. Save. Now it's rendering Star Wars like it's in the title. And if I upload now the content here and say it's now about May the 4th, we get here a dynamic rendering of content in here, and you can put anything in that YAML structure. So let's do one more thing. Let's go ahead and let's add an URL, and we will take the URL of the already existing backend. I said I've already proxied it here using Kong. So the URL of our Star Wars API backend is localhost 8000/swapi. So far we are not doing something with that. We just have put some data in there, and we could now also just display that one. We could go ahead and say GraphQL. After H1, I want to show this one here like once again curly brackets page.url and close, save, and now we have the URL written in here. So far, nice that it works, but not really what we're looking for. We are looking for to put here something in place which is much more interesting. We want to have something interactive stuff. So let's go ahead and do here this GraphQL part. So this GraphQL we have in here is a JavaScript user interface. And in Kong, you can do anything in the templates. This can be any kind of content. It can be pure HTML, it can be CSS, it can be JavaScript. So you have the full extensibility, whatever you can think of. So let's have a look here at this open source project. And let's see, there are some examples. Yeah, you can also use the React application, but there's here one hosted one. Perfect. Okay, there's an example. This is how you can use it. Perfect. Let me just copy and paste all that stuff in here. Go to our template. Instead of all this clutter in here, let's put in here that we say this is not of page title anymore. Boom. And we want now to have this whole stuff we have just copied in here. As we already in a website, we do not need the whole head section from the HTML. That's already done by our templates. Let's remove that stuff and removing this closing HTML. Okay, let's see. We have here kind of CSS in place. We have some JavaScript in place and so on. Let's save the changes. Boom. Yeah, we already have now working GraphQL within our browser, but we see, okay, the internet's not really happy where the URL is coming from. Look here, okay, it's trying to render this one, which is not working here on my PC because out of file reasons, but we already have an API. So we can just say localhost 8000 and it's /swappy. That's what we already have exposed. Save. And now something happens. But before we have a look here how this now renders in real world, it would be much easier or nicer if you would not put that here in a hard-coded way. And remember, we created a variable for that, so we can just put it in here. Okay, so let's now put in here what we already have in here. This time I will not use the 2 curly brackets. This time I will use a slightly different syntax. The reason for that is that we do not want to encode this in some ways. We really want to have the full URL available for the JavaScript. So we have many options to pass over data. So it's page.url like we have done before. So let's save the changes. And you see it's now rendering as expected. Great. So we now have already something which seems to be working. Let's have a look in the dev portal. So we find an example here, which we put on /swappy, dev portal /swappy. And we have now here a running version of GraphQL in our browser. There are some minor quirks which you might want to make nicer there about the design here on top, but it's already fully working. So let's have a look. Let's remove this here. This is within our dev portal. We now have this interactive, very nice stuff of GraphQL. We can see all the documentation. So we see there's an all films endpoint. Okay, what's there? There's a film collection in there. There's a films array. Okay, that's all the things I already have been here as an example. So let me just play that one and I get a response back from the backend system. And now the beauty comes from GraphQL. We have here films title. What else do we want? Let's say we want also the director. And then we can just go ahead here and say director. I see autocomplete, auto-generated, and now I know this is all by George Lucas. This is by Van Kirshner and so on. So very nice interactive way to work with an API. Everything is auto-generated just from the backend system. You get here autocomplete with all the variables. So all the bells and whistles you get from the nice GraphiQL endpoint just put into my dev portal with those minor steps. I just in fact copied JavaScript and some HTML into my template, and now I have the ability to put as many pages based on that into my system. So there's nothing stopping me from going ahead and I want to have a second one. Let's just see here how that one looks like. And I can just say I want to create a new content file. This one is another one, another GraphQL, and then I would say my once again is GraphQL.html, and then I could say that's a different GraphQL endpoint, and then we would have to specify some kind of HTTP URL and so on. So you only have to create the template once. That's a DFG template, and then you can have as many of those in your system if you want. So last thing, now that we have done all those things, is about nice that we have that, but if I look at my dev portal to the home page, it's linked nowhere. We simply cannot find that it's even existing. And as everything in Kong is declarative, so also the whole navigation is. All the links are, you can have markdown pages to make overview sites and so on. Let's just go here with an easy example. You already have seen that we have here the whole menu structure in here. So we have here the whole list of all the menu. And you see here there's catalog, my apps. So all the sections you see up here. If you want to just extend it as easy as everything in Kong being declarative, this is a YAML file. Let's call that one swappy. It points to SWAPI documentation. You can do much more fancy things, like you can make it dependent on the authentication, role-based access. Just for this example, we just say that's enough. Go to our dev portal, reload in here, and see now we have another endpoint where we can just click on it, getting now in a convenient way to our SWAPI documentation, or we could create an overview page where we list all of them. The abilities are endless. This short example, I want to stop it now here, just gives you a first feeling how extensible and how easy it is to extend the Kong developer portal with, in the end, quite a complex scenario here. We want to have an interactive tool which does JavaScript, magic, autocomplete, and all those things. And you just need to have those snippets, and I have seen multiple for async API and another tool. Say they're all there out in the world, whatever you prefer. You can put them in there, create your own template, so it's only to need once. And then remember, the only thing, if you create a new backend system, a new GraphQL, is you need to have create just one such file. The only real important point is the URL, where you say where it's located, and the whole rendering is done in a complete way, in an automated way. So thank you for listening, and if you have more questions, feel free to contact us.